Good afternoon. Welcome to the Coach's IDP Studz and Rankings podcast for week 9. We're going to try to take some time and talk about the deadline trades on the defensive side for the IDP guys. Some interesting ones that happened towards the end of the time for the deadline. And then some questionable ones also that we're going to talk through a little bit. And we'll talk a little bit about injuries, and if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about rankings. So, fighting a little bit of a cold here, but we're going to get through this. And football never stops, no matter how you feel. So, trade-wise, very interesting. San Francisco is going through one of those 3-game skids where they just need a spark. They just needed somebody to come in and kind of give them a spark. I thought it would have been more on their offensive side, but they went out and they acquired Chase Young from Washington Commanders, and that puts Chase Young and Nick Bosa back together again. They both played together at Ohio State, so having them as bookends. That's pretty good setup for them. San Francisco has done a nice job of really building depth on the defensive line. They made a trade earlier in the year, I believe, for Hargrove, and it might have been in the off season, but he's been an impact player for them also. So again, they're trying to stay fresh on the defensive line. They're trying to apply a lot of pressure on the quarterback and the offensive team. And the other thing that it does, it keeps their linebackers free. When you've got good athletes in front of your linebackers who could take up double teams, who can also make plays down the line of scrimmage, the wear and tear on your linebacking crew, that pays off in the long run. So looks like the 49ers are trying to gear back up to get back in the winning column and work their way to a Super Bowl. So, but we'll see. They've got some issues on their offensive side, but we'll let the offensive guys figure that out, and we'll stick on the defensive side. So Washington received a 2024 third-round pick. I think Chase Young being healthy would draw a little bit more. Maybe a depth player that they could have, acquired from San Francisco, maybe another lineman since they have so many. You're not going to replace Chase Young if Chase Young is healthy, but at least it gives you some more depth, and then also add the 2024 third-round pick. So a little questionable, but, that's why they get the big bucks, and that's why we're sitting here doing a podcast. So next one I'd like to talk about Chicago Bears. They traded for Montez Sweat, the other defensive end for the Washington Commanders. For me, this is probably a grade of a C, maybe even a C minus, depending on how you look at it. Chicago's got a lot of issues. I don't know if bringing in a defensive lineman, defensive end right now helps them, especially a guy that's been in the league for, 4, 5, 6 years already. So we'll see how that pans out. But Chicago's got a lot more issues than just acquiring a defensive end. So losing 2 coaches, assistants during the season for different reasons other than really, football related. It's a little tough, guys, no matter how old they are, they lean on their coaches to be ambassadors for the sport, mentors for them, and, young, some guys that they can look up to. So, I just think it puts Chicago, they're their franchise again behind the eight ball, and they're starting over. And then you look over, and the quarterback's holding a clipboard on the sideline, so that's kind of discouraging also for everybody else on the team. So um, Chicago, again receiving Montez Sweat from Washington. Washington came out smelling pretty good out of this. Um, they got a 2024 second round pick for Sweat. And if I was ranking those defensive ends, I would think Chase Young would be a better pick, better fit for Chicago. But Washington got more for Sweat than they did for Chase Young. So interesting to kind of look at that. But we'll see what direction Washington's going now with trading away two studs on their defensive line. I know they're a little young at the linebacker position also, and have a couple injuries. So hopefully they're not just throwing in the towel yet. It's only week 9, so we'll see what they have in store going into this weekend. Going down through the other trades, Seattle. This is kind of a surprise. They acquired a veteran defensive lineman, Leonard Williams from the New York Jets. I'm not sure why the Jets or Giants. I apologize, the New York Giants. I'm not sure why they would let a player like that go. I know it's not a divisional rival or anything like that, but the Giants did end up getting 2 picks back for him. They got a 2024 second round pick and a 2025 fifth round pick for Leonard Williams. But Leonard Williams, coming out of college was a stud, and still has some mileage on him. But he can put in some time on the defensive line as a depth guy to help out some of the other guys, take up double teams, and we talk about that a lot. Keep guys off the linebackers, and go from there. The Giants, Thibodeau, is really coming on for them. But I think a lot of that is he's getting one-on-one blocking because of guys like Leonard Williams, who was in the middle of the defense. So we'll see who they put in there for him. I know they've got a couple guys on their depth chart that they could put in there in that position, but I don't know if you can just find a Leonard Williams on your roster if he's not already there. So we'll see what happens there. Again, Giants, they came out smelling pretty good, getting 2 picks for a defensive lineman that's been in the league for a couple years. So, just adding, stuff onto their trade board or onto their draft board, that always helps in the long run. So we'll see how that turns out. Eagles not at the deadline, but a couple days before or a week before, they traded for Kevin Byrd, and he's an all-pro safety. They're just upgrading, all the time on the defensive side, and that's why they're in the position that they're in right now. Defensively, they're one of the top defensive teams in the league, and they're going to be hard to stop. They're going to be hard to, if the offense continues to put some points on the board and Jalen Hurts can stay healthy on the offensive side, I think that defense for the Eagles will really, keep them in a lot of ball games. So adding him to the secondary did nothing but improve the Philadelphia Eagles. Tennessee in that trade, they received safety Terrell Edmunds back, a 2024 fifth round pick, and a 2024 sixth round pick. Now, I know you can find really good players, and again, if you get drafted in the NFL, whether it's round 1 or it's round 7 or whatever it is, you're doing something right. I mean, you're a player. It's just, what the needs are from other teams and the needs are for the team that drafted you. But, it's hard to, in my eye, people say a sixth round pick or a fifth round pick, that guy's not going to be very good. Let me tell you, I mean, that the speed of the game defensively and what these guys can do on the field and what they've done. Um, I mean, sixth round picks, fifth round picks, seventh round picks. I mean, they're players. They're players, and if you want to debate that, I'll debate that with you. It's just my opinion, but I think you can find diamonds in the rough all the time in those late rounds, especially guys you can pick up that are really fantastic special team players. So you never turn those picks down. You never really turn your nose up to what they might possibly be able to get with those picks. So, um, it may not look the best on paper right now, but I would grade it out, B minus, C plus, and it's above average, because these guys are they're dudes, they're good players. So um, no matter where you get drafted, so keep that in mind. When you look at trades and stuff, be open minded about that and understand that all these guys are trying to make all the teams, and they're working their tails off in high school and college at all levels to make their dream come true in the NFL. So that's my take on it. So we'll move on here a little bit. The Buffalo Bills, they received cornerback Rasul Douglas and a 2024 fifth round draft pick, and they traded away a 2023 third round draft pick. So, they're looking to add some depth to their secondary. I know they had an injury. One of their guys went out for the season, is on IR now. So, definitely, with all these offensive threats that a lot of people have, especially in that division, you know, Tyreek Hill and some of those other guys, you have to have plenty of guys that can come in and run with them every time they're on the field. So being able to rotate some guys in to give rest to your secondary guys, that's huge. So it's very valuable to pick up depth in your secondary. They chose at the deadline to make that move and received another pick with it and just gave a pick away for that, which was a third round pick. So to the Green Bay Packers. Also going down through here, defensively, let's see if we can find another one real quick here. The Falcons, they added a defensive line after the Grady Jarrett injury. And they picked up a defensive lineman, Kentavious Street, and a 2025 seventh round pick. We just talked about those picks from the depth off of the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles got a 2024 sixth round pick back for that trade. So, again, trying to build depth and trying to replace guys that were injured, or on the IR or just haven't played up to the potential. So I like when teams are making moves. That means they're trying. It's kind of like if you're just sitting still, if you think that your 53-man roster is perfect, you probably are going to be watching playoffs, or you're probably going to be watching the Super Bowl. So you always need to be making moves, always be watching what's out there, and GM should be on the phone all the time, especially around the trade deadline. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the injuries that may play a big role going into Week 9. Um, it's we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. People are putting themselves into positions to make the playoffs. A lot of conference games, in conference games, in division games are being played. So we're about done with the bye weeks, um, one or two more, and then probably everybody's going to be out there fighting for spots to get into the playoff system. So injured players to watch, see if they play this week. Week 9. Kayvon Thibodeau, we talk about him a lot, defensive end. He's got a knee injury. I'm not sure how severe. I did not see anything that was said questionable or IR or anything on him yet. So that's a good sign that, it's Thursday and we haven't seen a Q next to his name. So that's good. Devondre Campbell, linebacker for Green Bay, got an ankle injury, kind of bugging him a little bit. It's everything you do on the field, whether you're forward, backward, side to side, whatever, that ankle is going to bother you. So we'll see if they get it all taped up, ready to go, and get him back on the field, for their game this week. So Javon Holland, safety for Miami. Early in the week, he was in concussion protocol. I don't know if he's cleared that yet or not. They'll probably wait as long as possible to announce that and go from there. So, Jalen Thompson, safety, Arizona, has a hamstring injury. He must have tweaked it during the game this past Sunday. So they're going to need him in the secondary. Buda Baker is really good, but he can't cover everything. So he needs his guys to help him. So hopefully Jalen Thompson gets healthy enough to play on Sunday. And the last one I'd like to talk about is Eddie Jackson. He's a safety. He's got a foot injury. Again, I don't know how severe that is and what he's going to do, on Sunday, whether he's going to sit out or whether he'll be healthy enough to play. So we'll see. Those are just some injuries to keep an eye on to see if they're going to play and put them in your IDP lineups and stuff like that. So, those are things that we need to, keep an eye on. For Week 9, IDP waiver wire ads. There's 5 guys that I think that should be targeted if they're still out on your waiver wire. Number 1 would be Baron Browning, defensive end for Denver Broncos. I think they're on a bye actually this week, so but that's somebody that potentially might get dropped, and if he gets dropped onto the waiver wire, he would be somebody that I would want to go pick up for the following week defensively. Cameron Jordan, defensive end for the New Orleans Saints. A lot of people are rotating defensive linemen and players like that. So, that's somebody that you want to keep an eye on if he's available. He's somebody that you're going to want to add. I think it was 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago that he made an outstanding play away from the ball, chased down the running back. And if he had not have chased that down or took the angle that he took, I'm not sure that they would have been able to stop that offense. And I can't recall exactly what offense it was, but I remember seeing him in I believe it was the Sunday night game where he just chased down a play from the blind side, backside, and made a really outstanding play. So um, that's somebody I want to keep an eye on. Quiddy Pay, defensive end for the Colts. Every week he's getting better. He's somebody that you definitely want to keep your eye on. I think he was kind of overwhelmed when he came into the NFL last year, but I think he's really starting to figure it out, being able to learn from some of the other defensive linemen that are on the line for the Colts. And he's got a really good linebacker crew that's probably mentoring him also. So keep your eye on Quiddy Pay and see if he's out there. Jahanli Tave is a linebacker. I know I butchered that name, sorry, for New England Patriots. And I know he's going to be one that, he's going to fill in for a lot of the injuries that they have in their linebacker crew. So he's kind of a diamond in the rough. He's kind of one of those guys that not a lot of people know about. So if he's got a chance to maybe stash him or pick him up and use him in your lineup, I would encourage you to do so. And the last one is Kanana Neal, safety, Pittsburgh. He has stepped in, filled some roles. I know Minka Fitzpatrick got dinged up a little bit this past week, and not sure what his status is going to be, but I'm sure if he's walking, he's playing. But that's somebody else that you want to keep an eye on. If Fitzpatrick is not playing, Neal would be a nice pickup to put in your lineup for the upcoming year or week. Ranking-wise, rankings are out. Not much change at the top for the three positions, but take a look at them. And they're posted on Fantasy Holics. And, you know, our guy that does the graphics for us does a fantastic job, and he's does that every week, puts that together for us, and it's really neat to look at those graphics and see what the rankings look like. So take a look at that, and we'll go from there. But I appreciate everybody listening. A little bit different today, but I wanted to kind of go over some of that stuff at the trade deadline. And if I can help you in any way, please send me questions to at IDP_Studz. And I want to thank Fantasy Holics for allowing me to do this. And hopefully everybody will have a great defensive week with their guys and their lineups. Make sure that you're checking out your bye weeks and all that good stuff. And go from there. So again, thank you to everybody for listening. Be great if you give me a follow, and we'll go from there. So again, remember, defense wins championships. Have a nice weekend, and we'll talk with you again next week.